The Chicago Bears are making waves in the latest 2025 NFL mock draft. Instead of taking an offensive lineman with the 10th overall pick like most expected, the Bears have shifted gears and gone all in on the pass rush. Enter Marshall's Mike Green, a dominant edge rusher who took the college football world by storm. With 17 sacks in 2024, Green was an absolute menace on the field, and now he could be suiting up in navy and orange next season. Now let's talk about why this pick is such a bold move. For months, the consensus was that the Bears would go offensive line. After all, protecting Caleb Williams should be priority number one, right? The offensive line struggled in 2024, giving up a franchise record 68 sacks. Everyone assumed Ryan Poles would take a top tackle like LSU's Will Campbell Jr. or Texas's Kelvin Banks Jr., but when the draft board fell a certain way with top linemen already off the board, Poles and the Bears front office made an aggressive pivot to Green. And let's be real, this guy is a beast. Green showed out at the Senior Bowl, where he put on a pass-rushing clinic. He dominated one-on-one drills, bullied top offensive tackle prospects, and solidified himself as one of the best edge rushers in the class. His violent play style and relentless motor fit exactly what the Bears' defense needs. With Montez Sweat already in place, adding Green would give Chicago a lethal pass-rushing duo that could wreak havoc on opposing quarterbacks for years to come. But what makes Green such a special prospect? Let's break it down. He has an explosive first step, which allows him to get off the line of scrimmage faster than most offensive tackles can react. He combines that with raw power and hand technique that overwhelms blockers. His ability to bend around the edge without losing speed is what separates elite pass rushers from the rest. And Green checks all the boxes. Scouts rave about his motor. He never gives up on a play, and that kind of relentless pursuit is exactly what defensive coordinators love. The importance of a strong pass rush in today's NFL cannot be overstated. The best teams know that getting to the quarterback is one of the most effective ways to disrupt an opposing offense. Look at teams like the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Dominant defensive lines have helped propel them deep into the playoffs. If the Bears want to compete with the elite teams in the NFC, they need game changers on the defensive front. But here's where things get interesting. There's still a strong possibility that Ryan Poles trades down in the draft. This draft class is stacked with defensive line talent, meaning the Bears might be able to slide back a few spots, pick up extra draft capital, and still land an elite pass rusher like Tennessee's James Pierce Jr. Trading back would allow Poles to continue building this roster while still addressing a key need. If they move back to the 15 to 20 range, they could still land someone like Michael Williams from Georgia, who has similar traits to Green but could be available later. The Bears currently have several needs beyond pass rush. While the offensive line is a concern, Chicago could also use help in the secondary and at wide receiver. They've made strides in free agency, but the draft remains a key way to build long-term success. A trade-down scenario could allow them to secure multiple impact players instead of just one. Imagine grabbing an elite pass rusher and a top-tier offensive lineman within the first 2 rounds. That's how championship teams are built. And let's not forget about the offensive line. The Bears cannot afford to ignore it completely. If they do trade back, a player like Alabama's Tyler Booker could come into play. He may not have the same hype as some of the top tackles, but he's an absolute powerhouse in the trenches and would provide immediate help for Caleb Williams. The Bears have struggled to establish a consistent running game, and solidifying the interior offensive line would be a huge step in fixing that issue. The offensive tackle depth in this draft is solid, and the Bears could grab someone in the second round who could start on day one. Another name to keep an eye on is Michael Williams from Georgia. He has the size, strength, and explosiveness to be a dominant force on the edge. Some scouts believe he has even more upside than Green due to his elite athleticism. If the Bears opt for Williams instead of Green, they wouldn't be making a bad choice. They'd still be securing an impact player who can take their defense to the next level. The Bears could also target edge rushers later in the draft if they choose to go offensive line in the first round. Speaking of defense, the Bears have shown over the years that when their defense is strong, they can compete at the highest level. Think back to the 2018 season when Chicago had the best defense in the league, led by Khalil Mack. A ferocious pass rush paired with solid secondary play allowed them to dominate games and make the playoffs. If the Bears want to replicate that success, investing in their defensive front is a must. Let's also talk about defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. He's known for his aggressive defensive schemes that rely on pressure and disruption. Bringing in a high-motor, violent pass rusher like Green fits right into Allen's vision. Allen wants a defensive line that can win one-on-one battles and force quarterbacks into mistakes. That's exactly what Green brings to the table. The Bears want to be a defense-first team that forces turnovers, and adding an elite pass rusher will help them achieve that. But there's another layer to this discussion. How does this pick impact Caleb Williams? Drafting Green means the Bears would be putting off addressing their biggest offensive weakness. While Caleb Williams has all the tools to be a franchise quarterback, he can't do it alone. He needs time in the pocket, he needs protection, he needs weapons. If the Bears prioritize defense over offensive line help, they'll need to be aggressive in free agency to make sure Williams has what he needs to succeed. That's where the offensive line market in free agency comes into play. Chicago could target veteran linemen to immediately improve the unit. Players like Jonah Williams, Lloyd Cushenberry III, or Ezra Cleveland could provide stability and allow the Bears to focus on defense in the draft. Poles will have to weigh these options carefully, balancing the need to improve the offensive line while ensuring the defense remains elite. Let's not forget about the wide receiver position either. While the Bears have DJ Moore, they could still use another dynamic playmaker. Some analysts believe they should take a receiver with their first-round pick instead of an edge rusher or offensive lineman. Malik Neighbors from LSU or Rome Odunze from Washington could be difference makers if they fall to number 10. The Bears could also look to add a receiver later in the draft if they decide to go defense first. At the end of the day, this is a defining offseason for the Bears. Ryan Poles has set the team up with flexibility and options. Whether they draft Green, trade back for more picks, or go in a completely different direction, the choices made in April will shape the franchise for years to come. So, Bears fans, what do you think? Are you excited about the idea of Mike Green coming to Chicago, or would you rather see Ryan Poles focus on the offensive line? Do you think trading back is the best move? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it.